Nigeria, Japan, and UNAIDS unite against plastic waste to promote circular economy.
We are laying the groundwork for a more responsible plastic economy.
River State Sole Administrator inspects assembly complex, charges contractor to deliver.
I think the state has done its own bit by providing the necessary funds. I was briefed, and so the onus is on them to make sure that they keep to the terms.
Benue State hosts first livestock summit to boost Nigeria's agricultural sector.
Livestock development stands out as a readily available high impact opportunity.
And then good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall focus on ending tuberculosis in Nigeria.
Tuberculosis, often called TB, is an ancient infectious disease caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, TB remains one of the top 10 causes of deaths worldwide. And
in 2020 alone, an estimated 10 million people fell ill with TB, and 1.5 million lost their lives to the disease. It's a major public health challenge, especially in developing countries across Africa and Asia. The WHO's end to tuberculosis strategies pushing to reduce TB incidents by 80% and deaths by 90% around 2030.
Well, that's correct, Yari. Nigeria is one of the countries carrying the highest burden of TB. In 2020, WHO ranked Nigeria 6th among the 30 high TB burden countries globally.
And each year, about 590,000, really huge, new tuberculosis cases are recorded in Nigeria. Yet, treatment coverage stands at just 25%. The disease hits vulnerable groups the hardest: children, women, and people living with HIV and AIDS.
The Nigerian government has pledged to end the TB epidemic by 2030. In line with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, but several challenges remain from limited healthcare access in rural areas to inadequate funding for TB control.
Of course, other hurdles include weak healthcare system, low public awareness about tuberculosis, and the stigma that discourages people from seeking treatment.
So tackling TB requires collective efforts, strengthening health systems, increasing funding, and improving healthcare access, especially in undeserved areas, are key.
Raising awareness, fighting stigma, and ensuring people get the right information are just also very important in dealing with this critical disease. Now, of course, with commitment and collaboration, Nigeria can make real progress in ending tuberculosis.
So welcome to Good Morning Nigeria as we mark World Tuberculosis Day today, March 24th, 2025. People worldwide are raising awareness, mobilizing support, and reaffirming their commitment to ending one of the oldest and deadliest diseases, tuberculosis.
Exactly. Now, this year's theme, yes, we can end TB. Commit, invest, and deliver is a call to action. It reminds us that with strong commitment, sustained investment, and strategic action, we can overcome the setbacks that have slowed progress.
So as we reflect on achievements and the work ahead, we'll be speaking with experts, policymakers, and individuals impacted by TB. Together, we will explore new developments, innovations, and strategies in the fight against the disease. So let's get into this important conversation. Yes, we can end TB, but only if we work together. Stay with us. I am Ademola Adeoye.
I thought it has changed. All right, I'm Henry John. A warm welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, the very first for the week. Thank God it's Monday. We're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. This is Africa's largest TV network. In the course of this program, we'll bring you news, paper review. Then Chukwudi Okoli Ogbaja will join us. But for now, we have the beautiful Stella Inamiti, who has all the news and ready to let us know what's trending. Good morning, Stella. Good to see you.
Good morning, Yenre and Ademola. Thanks for the compliment. Good morning. Here is the morning news. To mitigate the growing environmental threat posed by plastic waste, Japan, in conjunction with UNIDO and Nigeria's Ministry of Environment, has introduced a new plastic polythene manufacturing technology. This initiative is set to significantly reduce plastic's environmental impact and foster a circular economy in Nigeria.
I would like to express my profound appreciation, particularly to UNIDO and the government of Japan, for their support and for their resource allocation for this. Through initiatives such as National Policy on Plastic Waste Management and the Extended Producer Responsibility Framework, we are laying the groundwork for a more responsible plastic economy.
The sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, has charged the contractor handling the State Assembly Complex project to speed up work and deliver it as mutually agreed. He gave the charge while inspecting the ongoing reconstruction and upgrading work on the new Assembly Complex located along Moscow Road, Port Harcourt local government area.
Have a schedule and they have timelines that I believe they will adhere to. Okay. I think the state has done its own bit by providing the necessary funds. I was briefed, and so the onus is on them to make sure that they keep to the terms.
Providing solutions to peace-building mechanisms, land and water competition, policy inefficiency, animal disease and access to finance have been identified as the pivotal way of achieving significant livestock production and development in Nigeria. This formed part of the resolutions at the first Benue Livestock Investment Summit 2025.
Livestock development stands out as a readily available high impact opportunity.
This summit might as well be a solid foundation for a post-oil economy for Benue State. Oil is extractive, it is not renewable. Livestock is green, regenerative, organic, and is there forever.
And on security matters, 6 operatives of the Zamfara State Community Protection Guards and 4 local vigilantes have been killed and several others injured in an ambush by terrorists in Anka local government area of the state. The operatives were reportedly returning from a successful joint operation led by the Nigerian army, which resulted in the killing of several terrorists in the area. Governor Dauda Lawal, who confirmed the tragedy in a statement, said 2 members of the Community Protection Guards and 1 local vigilante are still missing. The governor prays that Almighty Allah accept the soul of those who paid the supreme price and give their families the fortitude to bear the tragic loss. In the meantime, Governor Lawal has directed that immediate medical assistance be offered to the injured, while families of the deceased be provided with relief materials. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, has directed Nigerian Air Force personnel to intensify air offensives against bandits while ensuring maximum protection for civilians, as this directive aligns with the NAV's Civilian Harm Mitigation Action Plan, reinforcing commitment to precision air operations that prioritize civilian safety. A statement by the Deputy Director of Public Relations and Information, Group Captain Kabiru Ali, indicates that Air Marshal Abubakar made this known during his visit to the Air Component headquarters of Operation Fansam Yama in Katsina and Sokoto states. He commended the unwavering dedication of the troops in combating banditry and urged them to sustain the momentum. emphasizing that air power remains a decisive force in dismantling criminal strongholds and providing crucial support to ground troops in the ongoing counter-banditry campaign. Recognizing the critical role of intelligence, logistics, and troop welfare in operational success, Air Marshal Abubakar reassured personnel of continuous support in these areas, emphasizing that timely intelligence, well-maintained equipment, and high troop morale are fundamental to achieving lasting security in the region. During his visit, the Chief of the Air Staff conducted a first-hand assessment of operational aircraft and ongoing infrastructural projects, while in Sokoto, he inspected newly constructed accommodation and other operational facilities, ensuring that personnel are adequately supported in their mission. And those are the highlights of the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Yenri after the commercial break. Please don't go away.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Afam Bogeneka, Ebim Nagara Dimawa Village, Abuja, Nazo Afeba. So Esom Nandi register na NSR government register with my NIN. So government we use ATM card. Nji we wete 25,000 naira 3 times. And ega haya mketa barumuru na bem. Eji megoro makamihe. Jikweru mehendozo. Thank you.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Net's Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
The sport is very, very important to the special kid needs. Engaging in this kind of activities, moving the wheelchair with the strength, is a form of exercise to reduce that stiffness of the muscle. It makes them to be self-dependent, not depending. We should believe that there is ability in their disabilities.
In the heat of the summer, Okada seats feel like hot plates.
How do I cope with this heat?
And how do I cope with that bad odor?
By staying 5 degrees cooler.
Body odor is caused by germs, and on hot days, the sweating and the odor are more. That's why you need to get the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which offers up to 5 degrees instant cooling sensation and protects you from 99.9% odor-causing germs.
When you're low on energy and need a break, give yourself a treat. Cadbury Hot Chocolate. Smooth, Crafted from cocoa, milk, and sugar. Creamy, chocolatey, frothy goodness, rich taste, so satisfying.
Cadbury 3-in-1 hot chocolate, the treat you deserve.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
What wakes you up in the morning? Is it the sunrise? Is it the alarm? No. It's your dream that wakes you every day. It's what drives you like a powerful engine. That's why you start strong every day with the rich, creamy taste of Nescafe 3-in-1, carefully crafted from selected coffee beans. You're on your hustle, and you won't stop until you succeed. Start strong, finish strong.
No buy am. But why? No see say this big bull bag of rice no get the new big bull holographic seal. Not true.
Introducing the Big Bull Holographic Seal Tape, your favorite authentic Big Bull rice, 50 kg and 25 kg. Now with holographic seal tape. This is to ensure you get the premium product from Big Bull Rice. Do not buy if the holographic seal tape is not on the bag or is broken. Big Bull Rice. Tasty rice nourished you.
The holy month of Ramadan is here again, a month to submit to the will of Allah, a month to share, a month to care, and most importantly, a month of goodness. Start well and end well with the goodness of peak milk at Sahar and Iftar, and share the nourishing goodness of peak milk with everyone around you. Ramadan Kareem.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. One cube, endless possibilities.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next is Newspaper Review.
Newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okoli Ogbaja is with us this morning. Chukwudi, good to see you. How was your weekend?
I am not creaking in the wrong places anymore.
That's
I
great
rested
news.
well. I'm not creaking anywhere.
Good to know.
That one don't take newspaper cover in face. I don't already see it when I enter studio. Good morning, Demola.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Great. And
You look like a man who rested well as well. That makes a pair of us.
Yes.
All right, so now that the elderly are done checking on themselves, let's see what the papers have this morning. Chukwudi, I'm surprised you didn't respond to that, or you didn't hear me.
What was that?
I said now that the elderly are done checking up on themselves.
You're talking about him now. I am Chooks the boy. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, so that's the Guardian newspaper
Very darling.
quickly. The lead story here says U.S. aid withdrawal, drug shortages, uncertainty, squeeze HIV/AIDS, TB clinics nationwide. Facilities ration antiretrovirals cut 6-month supply to 1 or 3 months. HIV response under threat in FCT, 33 states. That's according to NEP1. And FJ pledges 700 billion naira to plunge foreign aid supply shortfall. All right, all of that in The Guardian this morning, and it's making the lead story. Above that, Adebayo dismisses SDP measure as Lamido urges rebuilding PDP. That's on page 3. Presidency says suspension of Fubara orders not power grab as governor appears in public. Obasanjo decries Oyo Dam neglect incessant borehole drillings. All right, that's on page 7. You want to find out what that's about. And we had a picture story this morning. We have Bakari Ezekwesili prefers solutions to address leadership crisis. Anxiety in Kano as Bayero Sanusi plan separate Doba celebrations. All right, so much happening in Kano. Below that, concerns over constitutionality of suspension of tenured office holders in Rivers. And finally, on the front page of The Guardian, we have Nigerians seek good governance, not 2027 distractions. All right, so that's the much we can take from the Guardian newspaper this morning. Let's see what the People's Daily is offering. The People's Daily leads with how police military rescued kidnapped naval officer, 2 others in FCT. The rider suspects arrested with 3.2 million naira. Arms, that's the kicker. Local firm to reduce dependence on foreign procurement. And away from that, federal government to clear 500 hectares of land for ranching in Benue, according to the minister. And below the picture story, we have no hiding place for violators in capital markets. SEC warns. Other lead stories here. PDP group demands Wike's expulsion from party. Nelfund warns students over fake loan portals. Government urged to show accountability in water sector. And finally, ECOWAS at 50. Man embarks on 50-day celebration road trip across West Africa. All right, so Demola.
All right, I have the Daily Trust newspaper with me, and just below the limb plates, we have Tinubu, Buhari, Barrow, governors mourn as Katsina governor's mother is buried. We were threatened with beheading for plucking mangoes. Bonus students. Details of that story can be found on page 5. Sanusi Bayero plan rival Salah Doba in Kano. Details on page 6. Rivers emergency rule. No quorum in Senate. Tamboa orders. Jonathan Shoyinka Wabara faults proclamation. Serap suits presidents. Action taken to avert chaos. The presidency. Details on page 3 and page 4. Bandits kill 10 community guards, vigilantes in Zamfara. Details of that story can be found on page 7. Abducted naval officer, 2 others rescued in Nasarawa forest. Details on page 20. Pupils sit on bare floor, teachers on windows in Abuja school. Details on page 20. Another explosion at gas facility in Rivers. Details on page 32. Chooks?
Yes. We were threatened with a beheading for plucking mangoes. That's coming from students. And you and I will remember that Shetima, when he was governor, was planning for people to lose their arms if they were caught stealing a goat or sheep and all that. All that. It was Obasanjo who said, all that will fizzle out. Those were his exact words. So certain things are said for, some reasons other than the things that touch the core of the Islamic religion. I am one of those who tell people that Islam is a religion of peace. Then people are going to point to me the activities of some fundamentals. And I tell them, the fundamentals you're talking about are a threat to the larger body of Muslims themselves. So what does that tell you? So you take some of these things with a pinch of salt. The people would always find out what makes society cohere properly at the end of the day. That's what I think. Wola Adebayo is ruling out a SDP merger with any other political party that's in the run-up to 2027. You never know. Well, I am one of those who say that it should not be a PDP-APC arrangement only. I want a third force. I want even a fourth force. Plurality will help us push the frontiers of democracy to that which we have imagined.
The more the merrier.
Exactly, the more the merrier. That's what I think. Did you mention land for ranching in Benue?
Yes.
It was you.
Yes.
Now, the Benue matter, you and I have been talking about what is happening in Benue. We cannot claim not to know what is happening in Benue. Security people know more than you what is happening in any part of Nigeria. So the question is, where is the will, or what has happened to the will to bring all that to a stop? Why is it taking men too much energy, or lack of it, to find solutions to a problem that has become internecine? You know, it is not right. Internecine means it's creating casualties on both sides. Benue matter should be solved. If ranching is it, let it be ranching then.
Okay.
Let them provide the space. But you who's looking for ranching land should not talk as if you're imposing yourself on other people. Meet me halfway, I meet you halfway. I said the other time, Tom Polo is not the best pipeline security man. He's not. I am one of those who tell you it's a political decision so that the Niger Delta can be at peace and will tap the liquid gold that helps us have an economic life. Take your tongue, count your teeth. And you see, all these Turenchi will come here to speak. At the end of the day, my dear sister, my dear brother, it's native sense that I respect more than academic sense. So if that is what it takes, please, Benue people, please, people who are on the other side, you know, going into what I call the internecine conflict, let them have a rethink so that you can have peace and that part of the country would move forward.
Talking about peace,
Yes.
this drama in Kano, when will it end?
Well, I said it is time for you to see what it means to talk about the equanimity of the northerner. He has a way of taking the good with the bad. Don't worry, they will eventually solve it. They will eventually tell you that, well, this is how God wants it. And it works for them in many cases. It helps them resolve many cases. Remember what I talk about concerning those who fight to the finish. You must be tired of hearing it now. So they will solve it, don't worry.
So we're likely to have two Dobas.
Don't worry, don't worry. All these are phases. Eventually the equanimity of the northerner will step in, taking the good with the bad. They resign themselves to what they think that providence has decided to be the case. It works for them, you know. And they tell people, say, not every time you go to show your sense. Northerners know when not to show their sense so that there will be tomorrow for the environment. That's my opinion. I may be wrong, you know. So, when you mentioned FCT and rescue and all that, I cringed. Was it FCT or Zamfara?
That what?
The naval officer and the other two.
No, it's Nasarawa.
It's Nasarawa. That's too close to Abuja.
Nasarawa Forest.
Nasarawa Forest. That's too close to Abuja.
Abducted naval officer, 2 others rescued in Nasarawa Forest.
Oh dear. Well, let us not talk the way I'm talking now, because it's not as if it's only when it happens in Zamfara or Sambisa that it should be allowed to happen. Those people are also human beings. See something, say something. The job of security is not going to be left only to security people.
Pupils are sitting on the floor, bare floor, in schools in Abuja. Can you imagine that?
You have resource persons, more competent resource persons to talk about what we're doing to education in this country. Why are you calling me out for a fight?
Well,
if you ask me, when the budget, because we are fighting Boko Haram, security is likely to take the lion's share. Otherwise, in climes that think the way normal thinking should run, health comes first, then education. So you are telling us, you are asking why education is not getting the right attention in this country. It's one of those questions we cannot answer. We can only hope that those who are charged with making education work will live up to their responsibilities. Well, how could anyone sit on the bare floor? Where, of all places? Not my village, They are talking about Abuja.
Well,
If you sit on the floor and you even have teachers, I think it will be good.
The teachers are sitting on the windows.
Just taking it into the territory of additional mathematics.
Anyway.
Don't you think you should break up this party?
Chicken, it's time to go. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good morning. God bless you too.
All right, that's Newspaper Review. Stay with us. We'll be back.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The sport is very, very important to the special kid needs. Engaging in this kind of activities, moving the wheelchair with the strength, is a form of exercise to reduce that stiffness of the muscle. It makes them to be self-dependent, not depending. We should believe that there is ability in their disabilities.
What more do you need?
Guys, food is ready.
Cook to impress.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, for pure love.
In the heat of the summer, Okada seats feel like hot plates.
How do I cope with this heat?
And how do I cope with that bad odor?
By staying 5 degrees cooler.
Body odor is caused by germs, and on hot days, the sweating and the odor are more. That's why you need to get the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which offers up to 5 degrees instant cooling sensation and protects you from 99.9% odor-causing germs.
Our major currency unit is the naira, while the minor unit is the kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the naira at events. Stop stepping on the naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the naira. Handling the naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the naira. Love the naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the naira.
Nigeria is perched on a treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin. But none is more critical to our future or the world's future like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation this morning, which borders on ending tuberculosis in Nigeria, let's quickly take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Timothy Yusuf.
Nigeria's fight against tuberculosis is ongoing, with some progress made, but challenges persist. According to recent data, Nigeria reported 361,000 cases in 2023, a 26% rise over 2022. Experts believe that this increase in case notifications indicates efforts to enhance reporting and detection systems across the country. Highlighting Nigeria's tuberculosis situation, for instance, incidence rate, Nigeria had 219 cases per 100,000 people in year 2022, which is higher than the world average of 99.59 cases per 100 people. For tuberculosis-related deaths, although the exact number of deaths is not specified, Nigeria aims to achieve the NTB targets by 2030, which includes reducing tuberculosis-related deaths. Detection and treatment are some areas where experts believe that the country has made progress, with a treatment success rate at 85% in year 2020. Meanwhile, Nigeria has received significant funding and support from international organizations, including the Global Fund, to combat tuberculosis. Despite these efforts, Nigeria still faces significant challenges in controlling tuberculosis, including underreporting of cases, inadequate healthcare infrastructure, and a shortage of skilled healthcare workers. As Nigeria joins the rest of the world to commemorate 2025 World Tuberculosis Day, how far has the country fared, and can Nigeria achieve the 2030 target? Let's now join our guest in the studio for more insights.
Thank you very much, Timothy, for that background report. How far has Nigeria fared, and if we can actually achieve that goal of 2030. Now, joining us to begin our conversation, which borders on ending tuberculosis in Nigeria, in commemoration of World Tuberculosis Day, which is every 24th of March globally, let me introduce here in the studio Dr. Jafar Momodu, pulmonologist, fellow of the West African College of Physicians, National Hospital, Abuja. It's a pleasure to have you join us, Dr. Momodu.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Also joining us in the studio, we have here is Dr. Emperor Obochioma, team lead for Program Management Unit of the National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Control Program, Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. Dr. Obochioma, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, let's kickstart the conversation. Of course, we have other guests joining us outside Abuja studio, but that will be much later. But for now, let's begin the conversation. And Dr. Jafar Momodu would like you to set the ball rolling for us. What exactly is TB, and where are we in dealing with the disease?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much in terms of asking that very, very important question. Because here you're asking me about what are we doing now currently with a very challenging, deadly infectious disease that has been with man since even before men became Homo sapiens. Let me put it, man being man. It's been there since the days of antiquity. It's quite important to know that it's quite deadly, and despite the fact that several strategies or things have been put in place to actually curb it, some of the risk factors that we entail you or an individual getting predisposed on having TB, they are still quite in our environment. They are still quite with us. So that's why we still, despite lives that have been saved, we still continue to battle this very deadly infectious organism called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And to put it as much as we can, ending TB, it's actually what each and every one of us should aim at or prioritize. The NTB strategy is one of the strategies by the World Health Organization that has been put in place to try and curb this menace, which we call tuberculosis. And it started from several measures or strategies of which we involve local, national, international bodies to actually come to combat it. And every March 24th is actually the World Tuberculosis Day, where we'll get to shout it out. Let me put it like this. We have to scream it out that, look, there are measures that are on ground to help curb this disease. And the more we're committed to it, the more we'll put in these measures in place, we'll be able to curb this. So our theme for this here is actually, yes, we can end TB because it's quite deadly, and there's a need to commit, to invest, and so that we can deliver these measures to curb TB.
Yes, we can curb it. And can you tell us where are we global average?
Okay, if TB is endemic in Nigeria, and I see it as, if we say where we are, is the fact that we can tentatively say we're putting in as much as we can to actually curb the disease, okay, in terms of the strategies put in place to actually try to end this TB. But, you know, when you want to make a full assessment or a good, objective, sound note in terms of knowing where we are, we need to do some things. We need to do some evaluation in terms of how much of it do we have. If you look at your report, some of the data in terms of death rates might not be fully accounted for. Okay, some of the missed cases that are there, most especially even looking at children. I know we've had implementation whereby some people don't believe children can have TB. So there are some missed cases. And these missed cases is even attributed that for even one missed case, there are at least 15 persons that might actually then contact this, which is quite important. Then for those who have latent TB, they have TB infection but it's not active. These cases, how many of us are willing to go to get checked? So when we say where we are, we're actually in the, how do I put it now? In the need to get to where we need to get to. Let me put it at that. I wouldn't say we are there already, but we just need to shout out the need that this is a deadly disease that kills more than you ever think of. And we need to try and champion whatever is on ground and even improve on it to get to where international health needs demands.
Okay,
Dr. Mamadu, there'll be no need to mince words as we celebrate, World Tuberculosis Day today, because it is, statistics shows that Nigeria has the highest burden in Africa and the 6th in the world. So it's important that we stress that, just so that action, can be taken to reduce some of these figures. But joining us now for the conversation, we have Professor Isa Sadiq Abubakar, Director, Center for Infectious Diseases Research, Bayero University, Kano. Many thanks, Professor Abubakar, for joining us.
Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll let you settle in just a bit, and of course we'll get back to you. But let's talk to Dr. Ubochioma right here.
So let's get your perspective concerning the tuberculosis prevalence in Nigeria, and tell us what are the most common challenges faced by the patients in this country?
Thank you so much, and good morning, Nigeria. I think based on our information available within the program and within the country, like we know that Nigeria has the highest burden in Africa, first in Africa, sixth globally, and among the 9 high burden countries, highest countries global, and we contribute more than almost among the people that contribute the highest number of TB disease globally. That's being said, we have done much as a country. The federal government have done much as a country. TB is a disease that is curable and can be treated. We also have done a lot of things in the area of trying to make sure that services are made available to patients in the country. Like I'll tell you, we have more than 20,000 health facilities available for people to access care in the country. We are even expanding more than 3,000 in this year to ensure that we have access to universal care. Through the support of Global Fund, federal government have decided to use part of those money to provide universal care for those people by giving them insurance, free insurance service paid through that cost for about more than 120,000 patients in Nigeria, including those for HIV and for TB. And one of the key factors we face is, apart from access to care, is like we know that the key problem of tuberculosis and the key challenge of it is poverty. So where there is poverty, the immune systems are low, and then the capacity for people to resist development of TB become very, very poor. So we shouldn't be much surprised that it's developed. We're having such situation in country, and as we battle poverty, I know that clearly that we will go up to develop to see how people can begin to resist tuberculosis in Nigeria.
Dr. Obochioma, in your opening statement, you said the federal government is doing so much. I'd like you to tell us what exactly is so much on the part of the federal government, because there's a report with the U.S. Funding stopped. There's a report that from January to March this year, there's a 5 million funding gap as regards TB in this country. So what exactly is and then of course we know that the Global Fund is also a part of, support, in trying to end TB in Nigeria. Is the federal government really doing enough?
Okay, so I'll tell you that every country that has disease has support from different entities. But what I'll tell you in this situation that is very clear is that we have a very proactive minister in the name of Dr. Professor Pate, and in this situation they flock into action and have received enough funding from the federal government to make sure the gap for this period is over. Federal government alone is buying more than up to $50 million part of drugs to make sure to cover this gap. And I tell you, there are a lot of more on the board to make sure that the gap is not felt in country. Even at the aspect of human resource, they have swung it to actually make sure that the human resource component where this USAID is supporting is the gaps are covered. So in terms of trying to make sure a meeting is held almost on weekly basis to make sure there is no gap felt. And that's why as a program we are not feeling that initially it was a huge blow. However, within 2 weeks, the blow looked as if there is nothing that has else happened in country because of the effort of the minister to ensure that every Nigerian have access to care. And this government have shown very responsive action to that by even other countries can see that they can applaud the government for action they take, because there was a fear globally that Nigeria, being one of the highest burden countries in Africa, will swung back into the level where we were before. But with this effort, we are seeing that the narrative have actually changed. And
so are you saying there's improvement in terms of treatment and care?
There is. In fact, globally, Nigeria is recognized as one of the best performing programs in terms of tuberculosis globally, and have been applauded in several fora because of what they coming from treatment coverage of 25% in 24% in 2019 and getting to treatment coverage of 75% in 2024. There's no country that have done that globally before. So it's These are just what we see as per the Nigerian government and the program, trying to make sure that access and care is provided. And we are the best in terms of, one of the best in terms of treatment success rate globally.
Fantastic. Many thanks, Dr. Ubochioma. Let's get to Professor Abubakar now, Director Center for Infectious Disease Research, Bayero University, Kano. Dr. Ubochioma says we're making progress, but, you know, reports kind of say something different. In 2023, over 361,000 cases were reported, meaning there are some that are, you know, unreported, like Dr. Momodu rightly stated, and 26, which is actually 26% increase from 2022. And the report also says that 9% of these new cases are occurring in children. What exactly is the problem in dealing with this disease in Nigeria?
Thank you very much indeed. This should not be seen as a problem, actually, for people who know programs and for diseases that were hitherto difficult to handle as far as programs are concerned. There were fewer centers reporting cases and taking care of patients over time. But then with improvement in our health systems, more centers are coming on board to conduct the tests. More treatment centers are being identified and brought into the National TB and Leprosy Program. So we expect an increase in the detection rate. So the reported cases will definitely increase, as well as the number of people that are placed on treatment. So in a nutshell, unless this increase continues over a long-term period, we will, for the time being, consider this as an improvement in the program as far as detecting early diagnosis of the disease and then treatment of cases are concerned. But of course, we need to also increase in our efforts to conduct preventive measures, to carry out preventive measures at all levels, from the government, among healthcare workers, the communities, civil society organization, and all stakeholders need to work together to increase efforts aimed at prevention. But as far as these increase are concerned, in my opinion, it's a reflection of an improved performance by our health systems.
Professor, it's a reflection of improved performance. Tell us, please, how does TB actually affect the vulnerable people in the society? Like when I think the vulnerable population, I'm talking about children, pregnant women, and people living with HIV and AIDS.
Yeah, actually, tuberculosis, as earlier said, is a very infectious disease, and it is a devastating disease with a lot of complications, especially when untreated over a long-term period. So there are specific groups in the population that suffer the burden of tuberculosis more than others, just as the groups you mentioned. Of course, children who are supposed to be under the care of people whose immunity is not well developed start suffering from tuberculosis from their early days in life. And then for some of them, this will progress into secondary tuberculosis, and all the complications that tuberculosis is associated with may begin to manifest as time goes on. And these may include effects on the lungs, which from the common symptoms of cough, weight loss, night sweats, and fever, and coughing of blood, that is hemoptysis, it may progress into damaging the lungs and causing permanent lung damage, and so in some cases respiratory failure. So not only children, all the other groups, especially those living with HIV/AIDS, whose immunity has been devastated by the effect of the syndrome, that is by the HIV infection itself. Because of their poor immunity, there is possibility of all these lung effects and then extra pulmonary effect, that is effects of tuberculosis in other systems of the body, which include the bones, the joints, the kidney, the brain, the liver, and the spine. All these are manifestations that may also complicate tuberculosis. And of course, it can disseminate, spread throughout the disease, and in some cases cause septic shock and respiratory failure. And of course, the resulting effect is death. So vulnerable groups such as the people living with HIV/AIDS, children, and people with other diseases like diabetes mellitus, which is a risk factor for tuberculosis, and so on, they may suffer from these problems more than others. And of course, that include people who are chronic alcoholics, and it can even be a risk factor for developing cancer, because some of the effects in the lungs may create a hole and in some cases create a scar in the lung tissue itself. And of course, over a long time period, this can lead to cancer of the lungs. So there are a lot of effects on especially vulnerable groups. And of course, apart from the pathological effect on the health of the body, of course, there is the socioeconomic burden. You know, families that have patients suffering from tuberculosis also suffer from catastrophic expenditure. Although the government is trying to provide anti-tuberculosis drugs, but some of these complications that may result from tuberculosis are not under the national TB and leprosy control programs. And of course, the patients have to find a way of getting those drugs and the other measures needed for the treatment of the overall complications. And that pushes vulnerable families into greater poverty, because they have to forego certain things like food, like money they will have used for shelter and clothing and other important things like the education of their children. They now have to divert it into taking care of the patient who is suffering from complications of tuberculosis. So these are, it has a very wide range of issues, from morbidity to mortality to heavy socioeconomic burden, and of course, long-lasting disability, because some of the long-term effects are complications that lead to disability and handicapping conditions. And of course, the people have to live with them.
All right, many thanks, Professor Abubakar, for your insights as regards that question. Let's get back here in the studio. Dr. Momodu, when Dr. Ubochioma spoke earlier, he talked about tuberculosis being a disease of poverty. And we know that, if you like, misinformation, lack of awareness, some myths are responsible for why this disease continues to remain with us in this country. I'd like you to shatter some of the myths, you know, some of the misconceptions, some of the misinformation out there about tuberculosis. Does it mean that if you're wealthy, you can't have tuberculosis? Is that what it means? Does it mean that if you do not cough out blood, like some would say, until you get to the point of coughing out blood, that's when you need to go get yourself tested? Just speak to us really, just so that we can educate Nigerians watching you at this moment.
Thank you so much for that question. And I will specify on just answering as you've asked. So one thing is very common. If you look at what Prof has discussed, he made mention of the fact that poverty, at the tail end, malnutrition, you understand, reduced immunity, okay? So TB can even occur in those who are immunocompetent. It means that someone who is healthy can also get TB. So it's just the amount of inoculum or the amount of the germs that gets into that person. And TB, if I may put, actually provokes every part of the immune system of the body. And it has ways of evading. So it's quite important that even when someone is healthy, if you are exposed enough to someone who has active TB, yes, definitely you can get TB. So it's not just only let's leaving it at the impoverished people with low immunity. Then also, people can have this infection, but they are not active because the body immune system has been able to curtail them to some point. So it turns latent. These people don't cough. These people don't have any of those symptoms. Okay, we call that latent TB. The need to screen should also be emphasized here, so that we'll be able to know. Because once the immunity goes down in that particular kind of people, the disease becomes active, and then it could be a way of spreading the disease. So take into cognizance, looking at the organisms being inside a human being, and this person is not getting symptoms. It can also, in a way, evade clinical decisions, whereby people don't know that this person really has TB. In developed clients, I think they actually screen more or less people. I know Nigeria is trying its bit, you understand? They screen for latent TB, and as soon as that result comes out, they are treated. So TB quite endemic here. Most times we, how do I put it now? I think we have some certain predisposition to it, whereby we know that, oh, this is endemic here, this is quite plenty here, you understand? The need to treat. So there are some gaps in terms of that. Do we really treat latent TB within an TB endemic region? You understand? Because almost, as you know, it's ubiquitous everywhere within our setting, and we're still trying to cope it. Then you also asked, in terms of the myths, some of the myths, let's still demystify some other myths that are surrounding TB. So if you look into history, historical facts, you will see that TB has had so many names over the past, coming from even the Victorian era. You have that the white plague, okay, it's been called consumption disease, a lot of things about it, and it's been associated with stigma. Okay, so some people have that fear that once I'm diagnosed with TB, it's almost equivalent that I have HIV or my immunity is gone. So people tend to actually just try to take themselves out of that position of even getting tested. And I know if you look into the media, you've had jingles, enlightenment programs, cough above 2 weeks, please kindly see your doctor. These are some of the measures put in. It's not compulsory that you must have cough out blood, which is the hemolysis, and then because fear of blood, definitely any human seeing blood would definitely rush to the hospital. So be it whether it's from any other disease, but blood is quite significant. People must rush down to the hospital. So it's not just that. TB can be quite silent. Unlike some diseases that will just affect and everything comes up immediately, TB is one of the slowest growing bacterium that causes disease. And once it puts its effect, it's slow. That's why sometimes it's quite difficult to really hold it or catch it per se. So I don't know, that's in that way, you understand, if we put a high index of suspicion for it and actually treat anybody who coughs or who has been exposed to someone who had active TB, it can actually go a long way.
So if someone is inactive, if you have inactive TB, can you transfer to someone where it can become active?
Okay, so there's a possibility of transmission, but as we said, it's inactive. Okay, most times once it's active, the ease of transmission is quite increased. Okay, so
the inactive can just
get
a full-blown TB.
So the inactive, yes, what it definitely means in terms of the inactive is that the body has body soldiers that just suppresses that organism, and it forms a tubercle within the person. If that tubercle is able to get out, definitely it can be infectious. But that's why if anybody has latent TB, the teaching now is to treat that latent TB so that organism is destroyed in that person's body, so that the risk of transmission will not be increased if the person's immunity actually drops.
That takes us to the issue of diagnosis and treatment. Before we do that, I think our Zoom guest is ready. Yere, you have the details of the Zoom guest.
We have joining us now Dr. Jean Louis Abena Fu. He's a technical officer for tuberculosis at the World Health Organization Regional Office for Africa. He joins us all the way from Congo. Many thanks, Dr. Fu, for joining us. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you again.
So we'll get back to you. Just want you to settle down. Let's come back to Dr. Ubochioma. We're talking about this latent TB and others now, and this takes us to the issue of diagnosis and treatment. What are the most effective methods, actually, for diagnosing TB, in Nigeria, and how can these access to this method be improved on when we talk about all these latent TB and all that?
Okay, I'll tell you that Nigeria have invested much in terms of diagnosis of tuberculosis. We have the primary diagnostic tool for Nigeria is molecular test tools, which comprises of GeneXpert with TrueNat machines and TB lab machines globally. We also before it used to be AIB microscopy, but with this new technology, they have actually outrun AIB microscopy and now became our primary diagnostic tool. And the advantage is that they can detect TB at the lowest level of infection and also manifestation. We have been able to establish more than 500 GeneXpert sites, more than 400 TrueNat sites, which is even ongoing currently in Nigeria. We have also more than 250 TB lamp sites currently in Nigeria made available to increase availability to care and support. Like I tell you, the focus of the government is to increase access to care and this thing. There is even a mechanism that makes it that in case a patient is where the molecular test is not available, funds are made available to transport samples from the site to where there are molecular tests in country. So these are the mechanisms that have been put in place to increase diagnosis of tuberculosis in the country. We also have up to 10 culture sites that can, in case you have resistance, those samples are transferred to those resistant sites to know the level of resistance and be able to place the person on the appropriate treatment. Even for this molecular test, one of the advantages of TB, GeneXpert and TrueNat is that they also have to dictate resistant pattern early enough to say this is likely a resistant case, not just the regular TB that you know. So we have, based on that, we have been able to create access in most of the states. There is no state that don't have more than 10 GeneXpert sites currently. There's or molecular tests are available for them. We are still expanding. If you
have in communities as well?
Yes. If you know, even there are ones that are on mobile vehicles, mobile like keke. We have used keke as a source of providing X-rays with artificial intelligence to screen patients in the community. We have more than, currently through the federal government and support of Global Fund, we have up to 400 GeneXpert X-rays with artificial intelligence that once you snap this patient, it tells you that this is a case of TB that should have access to test. And these are ongoing interventions in communities and in all over. And these are latest modern interventions in TB globally that have been so.
When you say community, we're talking about health centers, and do you have them in all?
In health centers, in community outreaches, in all those things. Those machines are being used currently now. We have installed more than 250 of them. The remaining 100, almost 200, 100, 200 are still ongoing installation in most of the facilities. Even like in FCT, we have more than up to 10 in FCT. So these are just measures to make sure that access to diagnosis of tuberculosis is very, very easy. So what to do in the community component is that they take the community, do outreaches, and those who are most likely are given opportunity to take a picture, and those pictures identifies those who are likely to be TB, and samples are collected from those and sent to the molecular centers for diagnosis of TB in Nigeria. Some have been installed in health facilities, like 20 were installed in health facilities in a place like Kano. And what they do there is patients are referred from other centers to go and then do tests. We're even engaging some private health, private entities, so that in case of there is a struck down in the health system, systems in Nigeria, patients still have access to care in the private facility. We have more than 3,000 health facilities where you can access TB services in
across the
private
country?
Hospitals in Nigeria, yes.
Okay. Many thanks, Dr. Obuchioma. Let's get to Brazzaville, Congo, where Dr. Fu, who is our friend, joins us this morning. I'd like to find out what progress has been made in the African region towards ending tuberculosis and what challenges remain.
Yeah, so the African region, speaking as a region, has made a lot of progress in finding more TB cases, and Nigeria is one good example of progress in expanding the number of centers diagnosing more TB patients. We have also succeeded in reducing the mortality, even if we are not reaching the 2025 milestone. So in terms of incidence reduction of people having TB and incidence of mortality. So these are the progress that we can display. And the African region was the second behind the Europe region, speaking about WHO region in terms of progress. But Africa bear a quarter of the TB, the global TB burden, and also the mortality. So we had 2.5 million TB cases this year, and for mortality we had 400,000 lives that was claimed due to TB. That means that every second we are speaking, an African is dying for due to TB-related complication or illness. And HIV is the main driver of the TB epidemic, but malnutrition is also one contributing factor for TB epidemics. So the other progress also we have made in terms of prevention. I've listened to the previous speaker. They mentioned that we administer preventive therapy to people who have latent TB, people living with HIV and contact cases. So these are the progress that the region can display, but there's still room for improvement on this aspect. Over to you.
Okay, Dr. Fo, thank you for your opening remarks there and for telling us the commitments on tuberculosis across the region. Can you also explain to us how these commitments will be funded and implemented?
Yeah, so the question of commitment is very, very actual and is really the thematic of this World TB Day celebration. All is about investing. If you are committed, you put the money. So what we see in terms of commitment, proof of commitment, that is budget, we have a trend of decreasing both external and internal resources. So this is really a matter of concern in the region. So we need $4 billion for each year for TB control in Africa. We just have 0.9 billion dollar for the response. So we are really on. We are not meeting the needs to really fight against TB and meet our commitment of ending TB by the year 2013. So it's just an opportunity to call the government to sustain their investment, to invest more, to close the gap of what is going on about the external funding that is not really granted for all the country. So this is actual situation. We need more local, more domestic resources to close the gap of TB financing, and show also proof of commitment. So this is an appeal for our government as an African that we need to really reappropriate the fight against TB by investing in TB. It's not a spending, it's an investment, because when you invest in TB, you have a return on investment, you have better healthy population, and this is one of the first infectious agents that are claiming the life of Africans. So let's fight against TB and then deal after for other infectious disease that are less dangerous or also matter of concern. But we need to invest for TB control in the region. Over.
Talking about closing the funding gap, I'd like to remain with you. What would be your recommendation in that regard? I mean, we know that African countries are dealing with quite a lot. Security is key, education, even in the health sector, there are other diseases that, are causing, a lot of concern, in the African region. So how would you expect that this funding gap will be closed? I just want to know what your recommendations will be.
We are really, I'm in Nigeria speaking to you, and we know that we made commitment in Abuja to have a significant part of our budget devoted to health. We know that we have a lot of constraints, but what I can advise to government is to really set clear priorities. So we need to invest in diagnostic tools. So everyone should have access of TB diagnostic, and once you are diagnosed as TB, we need to have the drugs. This is the minimum we can really secure in terms of priority, and also the functioning, the running budget of the TB programs. And these are the priority we need to really to fund. So we need the drugs and the diagnostic. These are key intrants we need to secure before looking of other parts of the TB response in terms of budget. So we need to secure it, and we are looking in the newspaper some shortage of medicine across the continent, and this is not really fair that you are being diagnosed of curable disease and you don't have access to the medicine, or you go to the facility, so there's shortage of reagent for TB diagnostic. So this happened in our region, and this should be a priority for our leaders to close this gap and to secure these resources and to avoid stock out. It's better to prevent, to really strengthen the chain of procurement, give them better resources, plan in advance, pay the manufacturer of the drug and everything to make sure that the patient will have all the intrant when you go to the facility to seek care. That's my my plea today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fo. Now let's go to our Kano studio, where we still have Professor Abubakar. Professor Abubakar, I want you to, we talked about the funding, we've talked about the diagnosis. Let's talk about the treatment now, and what are the standard treatment for protocol for tuberculosis in the country, in Nigeria, and how can the treatment adherence be improved on?
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. The Nigerian National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Control Program adopts what we call the strategy that we refer to as directly observed therapy short course, as opposed to the past treatments that probably will take 2 years, and it will involve 3 months of injection followed by the swallowing of some other drugs that will last up to over 24 months. The directly observed therapy short course strategy, which started from the Stop TB strategy that and then that later we are now adopting End TB strategy, which also continues with the directly observed therapy short course, which in short we call DOTS strategy, will now require that a patient who is being treated for tuberculosis will undergo treatment for 2 months intensive therapy and then 4 months continuation therapy using a number of drugs that are standard if we are treating a patient as a first-line treatment, no resistance, fresh treatment. And of course, some of these other strategies, the issues will involve modifications here and there depending on the conditions that may also be associated with the tuberculosis. These drugs are being provided by the national program. So in the strategy, it requires that a person who has been nominated, a health worker, who may be a junior community health extension worker, has to observe as the patient swallows the medication and then record that. That ensures adherence to treatment. And for people who might forget, sometimes there are strategies, different strategies that researchers have brought forward, which are adopted and are recommended so that the patients will be reminded. But in a nutshell, the main strategy is to ensure that the person swallows the drug and it is recorded so that we will account for all the days that the patient is required to take the drugs, and we are assured that the patient has adhered to the treatment. In most cases, if these are adhered to, of course, the patient gets cured of tuberculosis completely. There are situations where some people default, and then we may have some few situations of relapse and things like that. So such will require modification of the treatment depending on, but this is to be decided by the attending physicians who are treating the patient.
Abubakar, from what you've said, tuberculosis seems to be difficult, really. Once it's diagnosed and then you're placed on treatment, you've talked about the period where the patient needs to be on medication. And I'm just thinking, for someone who is already poor, has been diagnosed with tuberculosis, has to go to the health facility every day to get the medication. That's, some kind of cost. Then the treatment period, of course, maybe for a farmer or for someone who has a business and all of that, a lot of things, would interfere with, adherence to the treatment process. Is Nigeria doing anything in terms of research, in terms of, finding ways on how we can handle this disease better? Or you think that, we just have to stick with what is available at the moment? And then, of course, I have interacted with patients who have undergone tuberculosis treatment. The drug itself, quite cumbersome to swallow. I'm wondering how a child, who is placed on such a medication will be able to survive with it. So is there are we doing anything just so that we can reform all of this?
Yes, definitely there are a number of researches that have been conducted to improve on the treatment strategies. And of course, this, in some cases, a patient doesn't need to come to the health facility every day to collect the drug and swallow. They are given the drugs for few days, but then, of course, a caregiver who may be a relative of the patient helps to ensure that the patient adheres to the treatment. And the period for which they get the drugs vary depending on the places and depending on how educated or how enlightened you see that the patients are adhering. That is the number of visits to the health facility to collect their consignment for a period. And of course, these have been individualized depending on the sites. But then these help to reduce the number of visits and place burden on the patient, payment for transport to get to the health facility. So this is one aspect of it. But the other aspect has to do with the difficulty in swallowing the drugs, as you mentioned. For children, the same drugs are compounded. So by compounding of the drugs, we mean that they are converted into liquid or semi-liquid form, so that the child will find it a lot easier to swallow when you convert this drug that hitherto had been a tablet. Now you are placing it inside a liquid drug like multivitamin, which is in syrup form, and then you are adjusting the strength to respond to the needs of the child. So when you have that, and of course, as you know, multivitamins are sweet to taste, and children like things that are sweet, it becomes a lot easier for the child to accept the drug, and then of course the treatment is maintained. So there are a lot of strategies, as I said, and these are based on evidences from researchers trying to modify and make it easier for the patient to ensure adherence. And some of them will require text messages, some of them will require a caregiver of the patient who is very close to the person. For example, the wife of a patient or the husband of the wife, depending on who we are dealing with. They are the ones that are brought on board to ensure that they help the patient to remember to take the medication, and then to help in seeing the patient swallowing and then reporting to the healthcare givers. So a number of strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. But before we let you go, I just want to ask this one question. How do you handle issues of drug resistance?
Well, drug resistance in tuberculosis management, the important ones are multi-drug resistant treatment and extremely multi-drug resistant treatment. That is an advanced strategy that is needed to handle such things. And of course, when they are detected, there are tests, specific tests, as Dr. earlier mentioned. Using the TrueCard technology, you can diagnose it. So such patients are separated from the normal clinics where the normal non-resistant treatments are being conducted. In fact, in many hospitals that handle serious tuberculosis, not just the simpler ones, there are wards specifically allocated for patients like that. They are isolated from the general public so that they can not be spreading the multi-drug resistant type of Mycobacterium tuberculosis. They are kept there for a period of time while they are under treatment, and then when it is felt that they are no more infectious, then they can be discharged, and then they can go about their but of course with a lot of monitoring. So, and then the drugs that are used, of course, are a little bit different from the normal drugs that you use, the common ones that you use for treating fresh cases. It's a serious type of tuberculosis. Even from the location of where the patients are kept, you will notice that it is not something that you can handle carelessly, because they are kept in a place where it is not easy for them to mix with other people that are not infected with multi-drug resistant tuberculosis.
Thank you very much, Prof. We'll go on a break now. When we come back, we'll look at the issue of prevention and control. Stay with us.
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather.
Why did you let him go? He might fall ill. And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with Germ Defense gives you protection. Raining season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's Germ Defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system, where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with. All the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms, they need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning in Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA, and we're still discussing tuberculosis and how we can end it in Nigeria. Our guests are still very much with us, and I would like to get to Dr. Jafaru Momodu, of course, as we begin to round up the conversation. We're looking at ways we can, prevent and of course eradicate the disease completely from our society. But I would like you to focus on prevention, really. What can we do? Like they say, prevention is better than cure, right? So in terms of tuberculosis, what's the way out?
Thank you so much for that question. Preventive measures, what I can actually say is that you are responsible for your health. You're your first doctor, okay? And there are some practices that can increase the risk of having TB. So let's start with our practices. Those who drink, binge alcoholic, people who smoke, this puts the lungs in a position whereby the immunity is quite reduced. What about other preventive measures? We know we have the BCG vaccine for children, of which they should be vaccinated. Some people actually have the fright now of, in quotes, vaccination. The scare, most especially coming in from recent epidemic that happened. But vaccinating children from birth is very, very important. Then also preventive measures too that can be coming in from those that have latent TB, whereby we quickly treat them so it prevents this spread. Then also in terms of our own judgment for the clinicians, getting these people tested early enough as to treat them so that it prevents the spread. Then I also would talk about it, as I've said before, your health is wealth, and you have to prioritize that need to be able to reduce things that will affect you. I know poverty is not something you can just come and eradicate just in a day, but I think with the basic understanding of life and what you need to do, there are some things that you should put in place to actually help yourself, financial-wise, okay? And also getting more education about this particular condition, which is quite important. I don't want to bog through, normally we have levels of principles whereby we prevent diseases, starting from even the primordial level, whereby we have commitment from the government, the political will of the government, in trying to ensure that it addresses the situation by providing some like the TB programs, strategies used to curb the disease. Then also in the primary sector or the primary level, where we are also educating the populace about this deadly infectious disease, of which we get them to know that this it's a curable, preventable and curable disease. For someone who has been coughing for long, even sneezing, singing near you, has the probability of dispensing this. Then looking at the secondary level where the hospitals are, early diagnosis and treatment of these diseases, and then looking at secondary level treating. The tertiary will help take care of some of the complications that might arise from the TB treatment. Then also continuary level of or they call it prevention, of which we've seen that more AI in terms of even the card for TB to diagnose this disease as early as possible to be able to curb the menace.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Momodu. I want to come to you, Dr. Obochiama, but we need to go to our Zoom guest. Okay, we've lost him. So let's just let me just come to you now. The other time you wanted to speak more on the issue of TB, the treatments that we have drug resistance issue. You would like to expand more on that. But there is issue. We know that tuberculosis is a contagious disease, and we know we have it in the markets, in the prisons, and all that. So, what exactly do you think government should do? In these instances?
Okay. Thank you so much. For government, I think the majority of social welfare package and also trying to battle things like poverty and increases people's capacity to have access to common things in life is very key, which is a long-term effect. But I think also providing, like you talk about prisons, providing a prison service where there is ventilation is very key. Identifying, screening, and like now what we're doing currently is that we're providing screening in the prisons and all the
correctional centers,
correctional centers, all the correctional centers, and also at the at everywhere you have a congregate of people being arrested for one reason or the other or waiting for trials. We try to provide those services there to screen, and the idea is early identification, treatment, and then for those who are also in the prison that have contact with these patients, we also provide them with preventive drugs to make sure that they don't develop TB at the end of the day. So those services we are providing, we are using currently now. The plan is to go ahead with we have done that in so many prisons where we are using the CAT4 TB X-ray with artificial intelligence to say we screen every patient.
So you have screening in correctional centers right
yes.
now?
Correctional centers, we have screening ongoing. We are even doing what we call massive screening to make sure that everybody at each point in time, the idea is that at least twice in a year, we should have access to screen all of them and then provide any one of them with treatment. And the treatment, like we said, is free. It's not charged, it's free. Prevention is also free in the country. And all the diagnostic facilities are also 100% free. They don't pay for those services. So that is very key for what we are doing. And for now, I think every contact, for now what we're also doing is that for community preventions, we are also making sure that early diagnosis is key, because when you diagnose and treat, and TB is one disease, even with the infectious level, within 2 weeks of initiating treatment, the person starts being infectious. Almost 80 to 90% infectious will go down. So it becomes that the person is free to to continue his life in the society within 2 weeks. And what we're doing, early identification and that treatment, which stops the spread of the disease, one. And then for every contact of those patients, we also give them preventive treatment. We have moved from long-term preventive treatment of 6 months to getting to 3 months treatment now, because the new drug we are putting in since this year is now the drugs that instead of them putting them on 6 months prevention, we are now going to put them on 3 months prevention. And the idea is to make sure that those contacts, which if you remember when Doc was saying, he was talking about the volume of inhaled bacteria the person have inhaled over a period of time, because the patient is a family member, all of them have been in the same house. Most of the time these houses are not well ventilated, so they are inhaling as the person is coughing out the bacteria. So as the bacteria is being coughed out, the family members are inhaling. So to make sure nobody later develops the tuberculosis, in that what we do is that we also place the entire family members and even those within the environment that have had contact with that patient to place them on prevention.
All right, Dr. Ubochioma, I'm thinking, is there a possibility that someone who's been treated for tuberculosis to come down again? Does treatment mean having immunity over it?
No, it doesn't. The person can come back. The patient can come back. The level of coming back, some people can be declared cured and they get reinfected in the community, and then they reappear. Okay, we tag those ones as maybe we say relapse, that the patient had been treated before, but he relapsed. Some of them are those who also were treated, but were not cured, but later they also come back with the disease because they started feeling fine and this thing. So we tag all of them as cases of retreatment. They are all retreatment cases who have actually been exposed to TB treatment initially, but however they came back again with TB. And some of them can be also because of they were unable to complete the treatment ab initio, which is where we fear issue of them becoming resistant to
to the drugs. Many thanks.
What about the issue of tracing and surveillance system? What kind of tracing and surveillance system do you have?
Okay, what we do is once a patient is diagnosed, all the people within the environment are screened for TB, and those who are not positive for TB are now placed on prevention, while those who are positive for TB are placed on treatment in the community. We also have what we call early warning signs, where what we do is an AI system where all patients, when patients are being registered in the AI system, they give you an environment where there is tendency for high volume of TB cases. So we go for a community outreach in that community to make sure that we comb all those areas to prevent. Because when we now find a situation whereby you find in a small locality there are 10 TB cases diagnosed from that center, it means there is something happening within that environment. So that AI tells you through the community system that the community should visit that place for this. So they go there with X-ray with artificial intelligence, screen the people, and after screening them, everybody identified by the artificial intelligence to be by the X-ray to be a presumptive case of TB. You are thinking that this person may have TB. The person's sample is taken to the nearest molecular lab where it is tested for TB, and those that are positive are placed on treatment.
All right, Professor Abubakar, as we round up the conversation, I'd like you to speak about, what can be done better, in health centers that have to deal with patients with tuberculosis, and medical personnel also. They have a role to play in all of this. So I'd like you to speak around that as a way to end tuberculosis by 2030.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Generally, we need to improve on our health systems. And of course, when we talk about the health system, in Nigeria, we have the building blocks are up to 8. Part of them have to do with things outside the health sector, but majority of them are within the health sector. And of course, the health centers are the sites where we see real reflection of the health sector. And of course, that is service delivery. And for service delivery to improve, you need to have standard operating procedures which must be adhered to by all the personnel in delivering their services. Of course, from the time that you receive a patient, how you detect the disease, the diagnosis, the treatment, and of course, the follow-up and everything you will do to the patients are to be guided by a standard operating procedure, and people must be seen to be adhering to them. Secondly, we need a lot of teamwork. Our health workers need to work in unison, not to have unnecessary interprofessional rivalry, and everybody's job description must be followed. And we must respect the contributions by others. And of course, our health workers need training and retraining, and in some cases, reorientation based on available evidences that are emerging, best practices from researchers and from centers that are doing very well and have been succeeding in managing the cases of tuberculosis. And that is the way to go. And of course, we need to increase the number of the workforce. Our available health personnel need to be improved upon to ensure that we are able to deliver. We shouldn't be having a situation where few workers have to do with a lot of work, and that does not ensure quality. And then supervision is very, very important. Whatever the workers are doing, if they are not being supervised, there is really not a feeling of motivation, and some may derail from good practices. And then we should ensure the availability of the drugs. Of course, we've had, and it is reassuring from the Federal Ministry of Health, that the gaps are being closed. because we have encountered a situation where in some of our health facilities there were shortages of drugs for some times. But of course, I can tell you now there are available drugs, at least in the places that I practice. So we shouldn't even have a situation where we will be having out of stock for some of these very, very important drugs and consumables, reagents that we need. We must ensure supply is being steady without any disruption. And of course, the funding, even at the health facility level, a lot of resources, financial resources are needed to ensure the services are going on undisrupted. So whoever is responsible from the level of government to the management of the health facilities, they must ensure that this funding is adequate and it should be based on needs, not just a situation where people budget and then the boss at the top will just reduce certain amount and give them. It should match the requirements adequately. And of course, everything that we should do in planning, we must ensure that there are evidences from our health information. So whatever, based on the number of cases that we have seen, we should plan everything based on that, forecasting what will happen in the future. So health information is very, very key. And establishing partnership with the community, the civil society organization, the government, the non-governmental organization, and even international partners that are supposed to be assisting us with funding. This is very, very key to ensuring steady supply of services, undisrupted, and then good quality of services are being provided to the people who need it. So we need to foster collaboration with everybody that can make a difference so that the services will be good. And nothing short of that will be good for the health sector. And of course, by the time we ensure all these things, I believe that we are going to have a lot of improvement in not only ending tuberculosis, but improving the health system generally, devoid of diseases in most cases. Thank you very much.
Prof. Abubakar, for that. Going forward now, I mean, the need for us to collaborate, I mean, to get more stakeholders involved, like civil society groups and private sector, like what the First Lady is doing now, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, trying to end TB in Nigeria. How do we go about that? I mean, getting more stakeholders involved in this fight. Dr. Momodu.
Thank you so much.
Just in 1 minute?
1 minute, okay. Thank you so much. I think it's quite applaudable seeing the First Lady doing this. And it's more like the keeping the torch burning, of which other individuals, both local, national, international, can also imitate and follow suit to help curb diseases. It's quite important at this particular time of our lives, whereby I've seen that in every community now, you have to own up for your health. The United States has actually dropped out some fundings. So we need to really commit ourselves at this particular point, wherein we can get these personalities who are willing to actually help out, okay, and support this TB program. Is very important. And like Prof said, you're investing, you're not just donating. And we'll have better health care for people who are living in this TB endemic area. And also a call too for the clinicians, the healthcare workers, all other people on ground to deliver these particular measures to help achieve these goals.
Thank you so much. I think that's a fine way to leave the conversation. Many thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. Dr. Jafar Momodu, pulmonologist, fellow of the West African College of Physicians, National Hospital Abuja. Many thanks for being our guest.
Thank you
and we hope that you continue to ensure that we stamp out TB. Dr. Emperor Obochioma, team lead for Program Management Unit of the National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Control Program, Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare. It was a delight to have you.
Thank you.
All right. We also appreciate Professor Isa Sadiq Abubakar, Director, Center for Infectious Diseases Research, Bayero University, Kano. Many thanks for joining us, Prof. We do appreciate you sincerely.
Very much for having me.
And of course, I would also like to thank Dr. Jean Louis Sabina Fo, who joined us from Brazzaville, the Republic of Congo, in the course of the conversation. He is a technical officer for tuberculosis at the World Health Organization Regional Office for Africa. So that's our package this Monday on Good Morning Nigeria. Take care of your health. And of course, let's end tuberculosis in Nigeria. I'm Henry John.
And I'm Ademola Adeoye. Stay safe.